Welcome to Letters from America, a road trip podcast searching for the Swedish footprint in the United States. I'm your host, Martin Wern, and today I've parked a Volvo in New Sweden, and with me in the Airstream is John Hedman. Welcome.
Hi.
Last week I met with Lucas Lagasse, and he told me the history of this place. Today I'm talking to you, because your family are one of those family who came here.
Yes.
In the 18...
My family on my father's side, my great-grandparents and 3 sons arrived here in early summer of 1871.
So that's almost in the beginning.
Yes. The settlement for this New Sweden community, the original settlers arrived the year before in 1870.
Yeah.
Yes. My great-grandfather and his family were in the 3rd group of settlers from Sweden that arrived here.
So, if you're going to tell that story, do you know how their life was in Sweden? Where they came from? Can we start there?
Yes.
How they lived? Why they left?
Certainly. My great-grandfather, Per Hedman, was... His vocation, if you wanted to call it that, was primarily agricultural, a farmer.
Do you know where in Sweden
He was in the province of Jemtland.
Oh, so a little bit north.
A little bit north, yes. And some of the family from Undersaker and in that area. Almost all of the early settlers had come from several communities, not too far from each other. Many were relatives as
and many were friends also.
And friends and relatives. So it was a tough existence, and that has come from my grandfather to my father to me, that it was difficult to prosper.
Yeah.
If we look at what we have...
you mean back in Sweden?
Back in Sweden.
In Jemtland. It was hard.
It was difficult. They did not, because of the governmental organization, they did not own their own land.
No.
And they were paying fees and what we might call taxes to the church, which was a big part of the local governance.
Yeah. Church and state at that time in Sweden was the same. It was unity. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that church and state arrangement also required that some of the agricultural products that they raised from scratch, they cultivated the soil and planted the crops. Some of the crop also went to others.
Yeah.
So they were left enough in the sense for a bit more than survival, but it was a lot of a self-subsistence type of lifestyle, which is to say, in our times, we tried to accrue some money and have savings and invest. There was no such thing even possible for them at the time.
No. Always making it.
Yes, and then being in central, a bit north in Sweden, literally the climate and the weather was very much the same here as northern Maine. So a relatively short growing season, and so
a lot of forest,
lots of streams and rivers and lakes, but very similar here to northern Maine. A lot of it was glacial soil, and it was productive agriculturally, but because of the short growing season, what they were able to plant, either to eat or to sell, was quite limited. And then there was the terrible famine in Europe, which was not a desert or dry famine, it was cold weather.
Yeah,
that shortened the growing season even more. So it was, I called a hard-scrabbled existence. It was hard work and little to show for it.
Do you think that it was the sum of all those things that eventually made their decision, or was it a specific event that this is enough, I'm going?
Yeah. I have never had it recounted as a specific event, but it was...
It was the sum of all
It was a sum. It was a combination of factors that came together in over a period of just a few years, where it was a lot of discouragement.
Yeah.
Looking at what they had, they saw that they could not feel that it was going to get better. No. So they were anxious. They were looking or hopeful for something else.
Yeah, when you pass, I can only imagine, because I surely don't know how that life was in reality, but it's interesting when you pass a point where you just feel that there's no other way than to leave.
That's right.
Because you're leaving. I've always said that what you leave behind says a lot of who you are and why you came here. Because
absolutely,
to leave your family and your origin and everything that you sort of try to build up and start on something completely new,
right.
That it's hard.
The families in their area there were many relatives.
Yeah.
They were cousins and brothers and sisters who married, who lived not far away.
Did they move as a community, your family?
My great-grandfather came here with 2 of his brothers.
Okay, with their families as well.
With their families. So 3 of those Hedman families, all living
the Hedmans
in the same village, essentially left at the same time and came here. And that was, in the way it was relayed to me, that was a form of support.
Yeah.
They were going to a foreign land and a totally different place, but traveling with family.
But you have your sort of team with you.
Yes.
That makes you.
It was a support.
Superpowers.
It was a support network. We're traveling. It wasn't a single family heading off entirely on their own, and that was common in the first few years of this settlement. In many cases, it was 2 or 3 brothers and their wives and children that came at the same time. Yeah. Some came later, but in most cases...
to wait to see...
Yeah, if they made it.
Yeah.
And it was all postcard.
Oh, maybe also to build something up so the rest of the family had something to come to.
Exactly.
But we're actually parked at the place they arrived. Because just behind us here is the trail that goes south.
That is correct. Yeah.
So that's a road now, but at that time it was a trail for horses and walking.
It was a path that was wide enough.
Not even a trail.
For walking and horses, and wide enough for wagons.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So they could pull their wagons up here.
Yes.
And they, just exactly where we are.
Where we are sitting right now
was their first...
is within a few feet of where they originally stopped and said, we are here.
And what choices did they do when they came here?
Shortly after they arrived, there were some cabins here. So their first stay as a family and as a group was right in this area. Mm-hmm. And there were leaders from the state of Maine representatives, along with Mr. Thomas, W. Thomas, that had brought them here. They had 2 or 3 years before they arrived, the state of Maine had sent surveyors up and rough surveyed 100-acre lots. That was a part of their promise.
Yeah.
That if you...
And this is because we talked to Lucas about this. This is a promise that was not completely fulfilled.
That is right.
Yeah.
That is right.
And your family was part of that.
They were...
Can we call it deception or...
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Mr. Thomas was very upset, and he was a very intelligent man, and he thought he had a solid agreement. So he was very upset when they arrived.
That coming up here and
the conditions from the state of Maine were not being met.
Yeah.
So my family arrived, and shortly after they were here, Mr. Thomas and some of the state people, it was essentially a drawing. Mm-hmm. You drew a number out of some kind of container that had a lot number. That was the number of your property. Now,
so you couldn't choose. It was just,
no.
This one is for you.
No. You could express a preference.
Or maybe change.
Change. Yeah. You could make swaps if parties were agreeable. But my family's story was they were in the third group that arrived here. Two groups had arrived the year before, about 100 settlers. And so a lot of the lots close by were already drawn.
That's surrounding us now.
That's right. They kind of worked a little bit like the spokes on a wheel. This was the center, the original center of the community.
So the lots were out.
Yes. They built buildings here shortly thereafter, and they called it the Capitolium.
Oh, wow.
It was the center of the community.
Okay. That's
so
interesting choice of words.
My great-grandfather and his two brothers had come from the province of Jemtland.
Yeah.
And they wanted to stay together. Again, that was a family unit, extended family, but with
of course they want the
mother and father and 2, 3, or 4 children. There's a dozen or 15 of them. It was their own built-in support network. So they had requested before the drawing, they said some of these prime spots here closer, because this was going to be the trade center in a way for supplies. They said, we'd kind of like to have our own area if possible. And so
the brothers and the families.
They arranged the drawing such that the property that they drew, the 3 brothers, was 4.5 miles north of here.
Is that why that area is called Jämtland?
Yes.
That's from your family?
Because of my family and a bunch of others that subsequently came. Wow. It's a section of New Sweden.
But you can see it's marked on the map. You got New Sweden, you got Stockholm, you got Jämtland.
Yes.
Wow.
They had 2 roads. The names were changed, but originally there were 2 roads that the settlers helped to build. One was called the West Jämtland Road, and the other one was the East Jämtland Road. But they were almost all Jämtland people that settled there. For the first 10 years, it was almost all from that province, and most of them knew each other.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem, but they agreed to it, is that it was 4.5 miles through, and this was a total wilderness. There were some small roads started right from where we sit. The first one they came on and up and down the hill. But to get to the northern part of New Sweden, there was a trail because the state surveyors that had been there 2-3 years had cut at least a path through. So my great-grandfather Per and his brothers, they arrived in June of 1871. So we had long daylight days, and they would leave early in the morning and walk to their lot. The first time or so, the surveyors had gone, or had a map, so they knew where their property was, which was over 100 acres.
But it was marked. Did they
had
mark it out themselves?
Cedar posts cut on 4 sides, east, south, north, and west, as corner posts to their property. So they knew what lot number they had, which was marked on those original posts. And they would find their property. And the property of those 3 brothers was totally wooded. There was no open spaces.
Nothing.
There were a couple little small streams, but there was no open land. It was totally forested. Well, it wasn't totally forested because a lot of the land in New Sweden is boggy or swampy. So there were portions of the land that were swampy.
Yeah.
Not fit to build on.
But they were farmers, so their intention to come here was to farm.
Yes, all 3 of those brothers they had some basic craft skills with hand tools and so forth, but their primary work was farming.
But I got another question, but how long did it take for them to sort of convert that area to a functional farm?
Well, they were given a timeline. In the contract with the state of Maine, they had 5 years to clear, and I don't remember exactly. They had to totally clear the forest of 5 or 10 acres in 5 years. Was one of the
to convert it into farmland.
It open enough land to build a home, and for farmland, and for pasture land if they had animals. So when they started, it was mostly axes.
That's a lot.
And started
wood.
chopping down, and this was relatively primitive forest, no active foresting and logging going on.
Just wild
so
forest.
they had big trees.
Yeah.
And we have a mixed forest here, coniferous and deciduous. So you had maple and ash and beeches, and then a lot of fir and spruce and cedar. And so their primary task, which they would walk, and they did, they had simple tents or some kind of covering. So it was a 9-mile walk round trip, morning and night. So, and that took several hours.
Yeah.
So sometimes they slept overnight where they were and worked all day, or worked for 2-3 days, brought some food and water with them.
But it must have been almost like a self-sufficient operation, even though it's a lot of work and time-consuming, because all the trees that they fell down are usable.
Yes.
For the construction,
Right.
or for selling, or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to build fences. And
Yes. And you're
so there must be some sort of operation within those families who did it to sort of sort that out, to move this over here and take this.
It was too much for the one man, and many times their families, the children, were young and not able to do that kind of physical work. So yes, those 3 brothers would work together.
So there's a lot of
and what they would
logistics almost
exactly.
into doing
The
that.
3 of them would work together for a day or 2 or 3. It was their own agreement. And you're right, the amount, these were huge trees.
Yeah.
1.5 feet, 2 feet, 2.5 feet in diameter, 50, 60, 70 feet high, and with lots of limbs and branches. And they knew enough about building. Swedes here in this country were given a lot of credit for building some of the first log cabins.
Woodworkers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they worked together and felled trees. Now, when the land had to be cleared, you can't build a house on stumps, on tree stumps.
It has to be cleared
And
fully.
that was a major task. These huge trees had long spreading roots, and to remove those was a horrendous task. But with 2-3 people,
do you burn up that?
They burned a lot.
Yeah.
They burned a lot. That was probably the most efficient way.
I'm wondering one thing before we continue with the farmland and your family. But one thing that I think about, if we take your family as an example, they lived in Jemtland and they moved to America, and I know there was a lot of Swedes here, and more Swedes came.
Yes.
So they could be able to talk Swedish among each other. But the journey over here must have been hard, because I'm assuming that, in Jämtland at that time, maybe you didn't learn English. So do you know how that did they have an interpreter with them?
That was a challenge.
Because they came to the East Coast, south of here, right?
They actually went from southern Sweden, Gothenburg,
over to
Liverpool, England, my family, and then left from Liverpool, England, and came to St. John, New Brunswick.
Oh yeah, but it's still quite south of here. It's far.
Oh yeah, it's several hours drive. 200 miles, 250 miles south of here.
In a car.
They traveled up. Yes, in a car.
Yeah.
And they traveled up the St. John River, which at the time is a border river between the United States and Canada. And they came up by barge and boats and arrived in Fredericton, New Brunswick. But
do you know
a lot of English-speaking people in New Brunswick.
How did that go?
Well, they had Mr. Thomas traveled with some of the early groups. And he was a Maine native, but he ended up with his time in New Sweden, became very fluent in Swedish and married a Swedish
like a leader
girl.
that's guiding them.
So he interpreted. So they always had at least one or two people in their travels. Now, it was more of a challenge when they arrived here and had to walk the 8 or 9 miles to Caribou for supplies.
Yeah.
Because there were virtually no Swedes there. Most of them in Caribou were English and French.
Town south of here, the next.
Yes, that had been settled 10, 12 years before. And
because Caribou at that time was, when the Swedes got up here, Caribou was functional.
Was settled, yes. And had businesses and stores and supplies. So that was, many of the families, there have been many stories about the difficulty. And as it is even today in some countries, when someone comes in to the home country and doesn't speak the language, some people are not very kind.
No, exactly.
You know?
That
Who
is,
are these strangers?
Exactly. But also language is such a part of the culture. So, and I think that is one of the main reasons why you see, as in New Sweden, you get Swedes here, and that attracts other Swedes.
Yes.
Because it's a comfort zone of be able to communicate and tell the stories and get help with your kids or whatever. So.
But it was a real challenge for the early people.
So going back to the land, what happened? What did they build up a ranch or a farm?
It was starters was primarily the home, a log home, and it wasn't a one-story, one-floor home.
No.
Many of the earliest Swedish homes had a loft, had a second level. If you go to the Midwest, many of them were a ground floor dwelling. But their style was, and that was primarily sleeping space.
Yeah.
The main area of the home was one room.
Yeah.
That was kitchen and
with the stove.
And with the stove.
And everything around it.
Fireplace and whatever they were using. So one of the primary tasks was getting the home built. And again, they worked together to help those three families so that it would go faster as opposed to one doing all the work. And then in the process, you were clearing land as you took those trees down.
Yeah, as we mentioned, it's sort of an organic
And then
movement.
it was no soil scientists available and not what we would call much science today. So they made their best guesses as they cruised their new and exciting property of what would be good cropland.
Yeah.
And basic common sense said stay out of the swamps, the sharp hills, and so forth, thinner soil and what we call ledge, bedrock underneath. So they would do their own survey, so to speak, of the land to put, and then in the process of when they arrived at their lot was a water supply.
But they had a creek. You mentioned the creek.
There was on the original Hedman homestead, there was a small stream. And those streams here in this area all over northern Maine are what we call spring-fed. There's a healthy underground aquifer, maybe 10 feet.
So it's good water in a way.
Might be 10 feet, 20 feet, or 30 feet under the ground. But you could find those fairly easily because the water would be seeping up through the ground even in some places. And so they would literally dig through because they needed a water supply, not for themselves, but for the animals and crops. It was no electricity or anything, so you weren't going to have any wells and pumps. It was going to be getting a water supply and hauling it in buckets.
Yeah.
So you wanted your home and the water as close together as you could.
As possible.
And they would pick a housing spot where they felt it was decent drainage.
Yeah. So they built their houses, got the wells going, and started farming. What was it? Potatoes or?
They, with similar soil and growing season conditions and where they came from in Sweden, root crops, turnip, potatoes, and that sort of thing were common. Those also stored well.
No
in
cattle
the
or no?
They.
I mean, for commerce.
They had no cattle with them.
No.
And they in the contract to be able to have passage to Maine, they were supposed to have had enough money that they had to show in real cash to live for a year.
Oh, yeah.
So they had some
savings.
Horses were a premium.
Yeah.
Those were some of the most expensive. But a cow would give them milk.
Yeah.
And
a calf, maybe.
And a calf.
Yeah.
So cow and calf. Pigs were reasonably priced.
Chickens.
And chickens. So they would get those from Caribou or different farmers on the way to Caribou and buy what they could afford. And that was a basic survival food and something to build off. Like I said, horses were a premium, very expensive. And cattle weren't any good for crops.
No.
So they did.
There's a choice you have to
use
do
of
there.
oxen were pretty common for a while. Oxen were big, strong animals, and they were less expensive in most cases than a horse.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as cultivating to plow up ground and cultivate it for planting, oxen use, and then eventually horses as they could afford them. But in today's terms, it wasn't a very large crop.
No.
We'd call it a big garden today.
Yeah, okay.
They did actually bring some seeds from Sweden.
Oh, they did?
Oh, with mixed results.
Yeah.
But then they were able to get additional seeds by trading in Caribou. So the crop really started as a small space, and then they kept clearing land.
Almost as farming for your own survival.
Self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we just flash forward a little bit, take some steps forward, because you're here now. So something good happened. You know, they expanded maybe, or
they were obviously hard workers and learned to rely on each other. So there was a lot of cooperation. If you helped your neighbor or your brother and you helped, it was better. They could see,
you got help
they
in
could see
return.
the benefit from that. So they did a lot of work together, and they shared.
Yeah.
And they even shared their financial resources to some degree.
Did they?
Well, sometimes some had less money than others, and they would help each other a bit, to buy a pig or get some chickens. And part of it was their brother or their neighbor kept coming over and wanted a few eggs and said, it's like, okay,
It's better,
I'll give you enough
money.
money to go buy a laying hen, and then you'll have your own eggs. But it was very small. That's literally how they started.
Yeah.
And as they cleared more land, got more crops in, got more animals, and that was a yearly proposition. Many of them used to say, I am doing better because I have 2 cows now.
Oh, yeah.
I have 6 chickens, and I have another half an acre cleared.
I'm able to get one more.
And so then it was more seeds.
Yeah, and then you get more leverage also.
And they shared their information. They found out from each other which seeds, which plants grew better. Or you're wasting your time on that. We don't get much out of that.
Oh, so what you're saying is there was a community that saw early on that we're going to benefit if we help each other rather than compete.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's going to benefit.
There was plenty of competition later.
Yeah.
But yes.
That's very human.
Yes,
Well,
it was I used to use the expression, listening to my family's stories, that they worked together and cooperated, and that was born out of necessity. They found out to go it completely alone. They had less chance to survive.
I'm thinking that maybe there's a philosophical lesson here, but as you said, in necessity, you can see the benefits of cooperating.
Yes.
So you put family feuds aside because it's not worth it. But then you end up in surplus, and you get time, and your mind starts to wander, and you start to build envy, and things like that.
I mean, the human nature was universal.
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting.
Some who prospered were a source of envy by many others. Now, in
and
many
also when
cases,
you get a little bit more time on your hand, a little bit more comfort, your mind opens up to other thoughts.
Yes,
you don't have to think about waking up 5 a.m. to survive anymore.
That's right. That's right.
You can sit on your porch a little bit longer and wonder what the neighbor's doing over there.
Yes. And as the neighbor travels by and you're having a cup of coffee first thing in the morning, and your
he's going to start talking.
Legs folded in a rocking chair, and your neighbor is heading off for clearing more trees.
Yeah.
There was some resentment and envy that occurred. But there was overall, especially in the first 10 or 20 years, a lot of cooperation. There were some stories, even from Mr. Thomas and some early community leaders, about working together and sharing and helping each other out. And it was, if you work together, you can survive. If you want to go it alone, you die separately.
Oh, that's harsh.
The bottom line message is, if you're going to do it all yourself and you're going to be independent and not rely on anybody else and you can take care of it,
go ahead.
You may likely not succeed.
Yeah, but go ahead. We're not going to help you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if that's your attitude, fine.
Yeah.
Make it on your own.
Good luck on you.
Yes.
Are you, because you are born here?
Yes.
Born and raised in New Sweden?
Yep. Born in the neighboring town.
In the neighboring.
The closest hospital.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
No hospital here.
No.
But,
but that's, you know what I mean by that. Is that still the same farm? That
the
original
Hedman homestead, my uncle, my father's older brother, took that over. Then my grandfather bought the farm I grew up on next door. Well, then farming was going more and more by the wayside, and in terms of making a living off of it. So I still, the second farm next to the original, I still have that.
Oh, yeah.
But the original homestead has been sold. Part of it burned, but then originally was torn down. And a neighbor's family who started next farm over, not related, but from Jemtland, that the daughter of that family, who's a few years older than I am, they bought that property.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now it's cropland.
It is no cropland.
Nothing.
No. The fields ended up growing up into bushes, and it's that's been many people, those of us who have lived here and grown up here, we call it kind of a sad commentary, because there were thousands and thousands of acres of land cleared here, and cropland and pasture land. And farming here in northern Maine became bigger business and more commercial, and those smaller farms with the hills and wet places weren't as practical. And the younger, many of my generation moved away, so agriculture started going through a major change even 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And subsequently, some of the properties were sold, but people were not farmers. Some had animals and pastures, but a lot of it went back and regrew. Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Do you
well,
think
it's
about
kind of overall, it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
Because I listened to the stories of my great-grandfather and father, and these 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day of hard manual labor to clear land, to make something of it. The same thing, the spot for the home, the crops and pastures. And much of that land now is useless for any of those purposes.
You had to start over again.
You'd have to start over. You'd spend a lot of money in today's dollars to bring that land back open to make it productive again. Yeah. It's probably bothered my father more than me, because he was young enough at the time to be not a part of the original clearing, but those long days of manual labor. So there was an appreciation of his father and his grandfather saying, "Wow, that was a lot of work, and look what you did with it." So yeah, It's a common expression around here. Look at that. Look at that farm. Look at that place. It's all grown up again.
Yeah.
And it takes years for a forest
to grow up,
regrow. So yeah.
Do you ever visit the place?
Oh yeah.
You do?
Oh yeah. I still go up there and cut a little bit of wood every year.
Oh, you
do?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have the Swedish flag on your chest.
Yes.
Do you feel Swedish?
Oh yeah.
Well.
There were 5 of us kids growing up, and we used to say, we're Swedes, we're Swedish. And my mother, who was mother and father were all Swedes and so forth. And my mother, because she got Americanized and anglicized, she'd look at us and say, well, yes, you are, but you're really Swedish American.
Yeah. Well, that's the point.
I knew I was living in America, and I'm proud of my country.
Yeah.
But I even have a Swedish flag tattoo on.
You do?
Yes,
you have to show me later.
I put it on my rippling bicep. So the flag waves.
Yeah, it waves. As soon as you're walking down the street, it waves. So I have this thing that I do in all episodes. It was a bit tricky last week as well with Lucas, because he's also born and raised here in this area. And you were born and raised here.
Yes.
Yeah. Almost here.
Yes.
Yeah. But your family is up from Jemtland. On the map on the table here, Jämtland is up here.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're here.
Yes.
And you're going to think that I'm stupid now. But I need to ask this question. Since you got the Swedish flag also.
Okay.
Where is home?
For me, home is here.
Yeah. Yeah, but that makes sense.
Because that's where I was born and
course.
where I have grown up.
But the theme of this, or the title of this podcast, can I get your signature here?
Sure.
Up here? You saw the line that I drew up from Maine.
Whoops.
Oh, maybe I need a new pen. Sorry about that. The podcast is called Letters from America.
Yes.
So if you were to write a letter from home, where you are now, back in time to where your family came from,
interesting.
what would you say to Jemtland? Do you have relatives in Jemtland?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Still have some cousins. I have not made a trip back.
No, but they're still there.
Some my 2 sisters and some of my other family have made and have found cousins.
Oh yeah.
And genealogy's such a
it's convenient today.
And easier to do. So yes.
So you got family
still
up in
have
Jämtland,
cousins. Yes. And some years ago, 30, 40 years ago. So in my parents and grandparents, they found some of the older relatives too that knew my grandfather's family.
Yeah.
You know, had showed
some connection.
Showed them where they had lived, for example, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. So there's still some Hedman still in that same area, and a reasonably common name.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not very
Victor
odd.
Hedman, the pro hockey player.
Exactly.
But
are you related?
Yeah, well, I tell people he's my cousin.
You do.
He's 6'7", and I'm about 5'4", so it's not a good selling point.
But you're not getting away, because I got postcards here for you to
wonderful.
try. So if you were to write a letter from Maine back to where your family's origin in Jemtland,
I would.
This is for you as well.
Probably just give an opening sentence or two to say who I am, and that I was born here in Maine in a community called New Sweden. Tell them where my family had come from, so they had a basis of who am I.
Yeah.
And I would say, I'm happy where I am. Okay. My family came to a new land. Worked very hard, had lots of struggles, but they stayed.
Yeah.
There were many families that stayed here for a while and left, but my family stayed. And, a few went off to industrial places, but many of them stayed.
But that happens in families over
so
time.
I would say, I'm happy where I am. And all I know about where my great-grandparents came from is from my grandfather and father, who were born there. and have told stories, and those stories have been passed down. So I really can't say that I know how you live now in the country that my family came from. I have been told quite a bit about how it was. I'm a pretty good reader and study some history, so I have some glimmer of understanding of how you're living now.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
But it would be highly unlikely I would move back to where my original family came from.
But maybe...
But I would like to visit and learn more and see, even though I know it is physically, the geography has changed somewhat and the villages and so forth, I would still like to see where they walked and where they maybe attended church or a community gathering or where they fished in a stream.
Yeah.
I would like to see that.
I like the letter. Thank you. It was a real treat having you here in the trailer.
Well, you too.
Yeah.
I do have to say to you that after Lucas had called and we had connected and I have some family visit, I said, I'm kind of excited because I get to sit down with a real Swede.
Yeah, exactly.
That we call 21st century people who are actually from Sweden and have lived there.
Real
because
Swede.
we're all transplants.
Yeah.
So when we've had visitors here from Sweden, but I said it's kind of a treat when we sit down with a real Swede.
I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It was great.
Good.
Yeah.
You have listened to Letters from America, a weekly road trip podcast celebrating the Swedish heritage in the United States. Produced in collaboration with the Embassy of Sweden in Washington, D.C., Volvo Cars USA, Volvo Trucks USA, and Airstream.